Bookish Besties. My name is Brittany. This is Besties and Reads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're already subscribed, as always, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you for returning to another video. Today, we are going to chat. We're going to catch up a little bit. I know that I just did a chit-chatty video talking about what 2024 taught me about my reading. And in that video, I kind of alluded to this one that I wanted to do as well, kind of catching you up on what has been going on and why it has caused me to change my outlook on my reading and my goals for 2025. So I've talked about this before in, I think it was a video that I did over Christmas during Bookmas, another chit-chatty catch-up video, talking about things that have kind of been going on primarily within my work life. Now, I'm not going to go too terribly into detail here, but essentially the long and short of it is we were shorthanded on my team. I am an academic advisor for a local university, and because we were shorthanded, I ended up getting 400 students added onto my 300 to 400 level caseload already. So I've had about 700 to 800 students for the past 5 months, and as such, I have been essentially operating over capacity for the past 5 months. It is very difficult when 700 plus students could need your time and attention at any given point. And when you're in the height of advisement and enrollment, when the semester is about to start, schedule changes need to happen, enrollment for latecomers need to happen. It's just a whole big chaotic mess. And I'm finally coming to the end of it. January 30th is going to be the final day that I have with these students, and I'm going to be able to hand them off to the person that will now be taking them. So that is going to be a relief. But some other things have happened recently in January that have really added a level of chaos to life, and it has definitely affected my reading. Because of that, it also kind of affected my outlook on the 2025 reading year. And so I kind of wanted to share that with you and kind of update some of how I'm proceeding with reading in 2025. So I started the year with a parental visit. My dad and stepmom actually flew out here on the 1st and they stayed through the 6th. So they were here for almost a week. And as such, my time for a little while was not really my own because I never knew when they were going to be ready, when they were going to want to do things, what we were going to be doing at any given point. We spent one day fully in New Orleans, so obviously there was no reading or filming or booktube stuff happening at that time. We would go out to dinner, we would do all kinds of things while they were here. So naturally on its own, that would have added a level of instability to my reading life because I never would have known when I would have the opportunity to read. But also at that point, I had some significant car issues. I drove a 2013 Ford Escape. I love that car with my whole heart and soul. We have literally been all over the country together. It has a very interesting origin story in my opinion, and I'm just really connected to that vehicle. But it's essentially gotten to the point where the repairs that I would need to make on it kind of outweigh its value. So if I were going to spend thousands of dollars on repairs to this car, which is maybe only worth $3,000 at most at this time, I might as well take that money and put it as an investment towards a newer vehicle. Ultimately, I ended up having to do it, but it wasn't an immediate process because my car broke down on a Saturday, kind of after everything had already closed. The bank had closed. I wasn't able to go get a loan situated at the time. On Sundays, car dealerships are closed here. And then the next week, my husband had to go back to work. He wasn't going to be available to help me with this stuff, and I had no car. So I had to work remotely for several days until we were finally able to go get to some dealerships, do some test driving, and ultimately get a new car for myself. So that definitely set things out of whack. I was once again out of my routine. I wasn't able to go into the office. I wasn't able to go anywhere, drive anywhere, and it was just a chaotic mess. And naturally, having to get a new vehicle is a stressor in a lot of other ways because it comes with a lot of expenses that I really didn't want to have. That's going to hurt a lot. That definitely hurt a lot. And we are actually currently also going to see how much it's going to be to fix the problems with my Ford Escape. We're going to try to sell it to somebody personally or maybe to like CarMax or something like that because ultimately I do still feel like it's a really good car. I've had almost no problems with it for the most part, and I feel like once these problems that it does have are addressed, it will be good for somebody, like maybe somebody's first car or something like that. So while all that was going on, I was also still dealing with the chaos of my job. January is one of the busiest, most stressful months at my job, so that is also taking up a lot of my brain space still. It has interfered with my reading, it has interfered with my booktube content, it has interfered with the time that I'm able to dedicate to my family. And even though at this moment we are now up to full staff, we are also once again going to be losing another one of my team members. That person's caseload is going to have to go somewhere. So there is a possibility that I will also once again be receiving a heavier caseload coming up soon. And I've also mentioned in the past that because of all the chaos at work, I had to take a break from my grad program. I took off the final term of 2024 and I took off the first term of 2025. And my plan was to take back-to-back courses for the next several terms so that I could at least try to make some more progress. And that's stressful enough on its own, but then I'm going to once again probably have a heavier caseload. I might once again have to skip more grad terms, which I definitely don't want to do because I want to get that done and over with. I want it off of my plate. I don't want to think about it anymore. So as you can kind of imagine, imagine, a lot of stuff has been going on. And to start out 2025 in such a messy and chaotic fashion, when I had such high hopes and dreams for 2025 and my reading year, it was really deflating. It really deflated me. And so I had to kind of take a step back and think about what I could potentially change to make it so that my reading is sustainable in 2025. One thing that I did talk about in that other video that I posted about what 2024 taught me about my reading is that I already need to determine what my sustainable reading pace is to where I can allow myself to take longer to read books without that actually putting me into a slump. And I am still working on that. And I think that's going to be a big part of my reading in 2025. Something else that I think I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the number of books that I actually put on my TBR going forward. Now, I really am a TBR driven person. I am not a mood reader. I need to be told what I'm reading at any given time for the most part. I really don't want to have a lot of options put in front of me because I will get decision paralysis. I will get decision fatigue. I'm making so many thousands of other decisions on a daily basis. What I'm reading, I really don't want that to be the case. So I will 100% not be eliminating my TBRs, my TBR game, my TBR videos. I won't be eliminating any of that. But what I think I will do is limit the books that I put in my TBR videos because I am also a person that follows through on my commitments. So if I do a TBR video and I say that I'm going to read 13 books, I will read those 13 books come hell or high water. You know what I mean? It is going to be my goal to read those books. I'm also a very goal-driven person. I like to have a goal. And so it's not outside of my character to have a TBR, to have a goal or anything like that. I'm not doing that for content or for any other reason other than I am a structured and routine person like that. I like having something to strive for. I like following through on my commitments, and all of those things come together when it comes to my reading. But I do think that I need to kind of lower what I'm going to read every single month. So I'm still going to be doing the standard 6 draws for my TBR game every single month, but I'm going to lessen the number of pulls that I pull from the challenge cup. And as part of that, I am also reducing the number of challenges that I'm participating in 2025. Primarily, I'm removing the challenge of doing the 52 book clubs yearly challenge. I've done that for the past couple of years, and for the most part, I've really enjoyed it. But a lot of the prompts this year, I'm just not relating to. And I feel like that's only going to hurt my reading. It is not going to help it. So I'm still going to be doing around the year in 52 books. So that's going to be my 52-week challenge. I will also, of course, still be doing the 25 and 25 challenge hosted by Brianna from 4 Paws and a Book. I think that's going to be pretty simple to do because a lot of her prompts are very vague and easily satisfiable. So I'm pretty happy with that. I will also be doing the Buzzwordathon because those are typically pretty easily able to fit in the natural course of my reading, and it's only 12. And I'm also now going to add in the challenge of reading my anticipated releases. I'm going to see how many of the books that I featured in my 2025 anticipated release video I can read in 2025. Now, in the past, I have not been a primarily new release reader, and so I've never really understood the point of anticipating releases if I'm not going to get to them as soon as possible. And that's because I was focusing on my backlist. Well, I'm very, very proud to say that over the past couple of years, while focusing on dwindling my physical TBR and also just kind of dwindling my virtual TBR as a whole, I have all but eliminated the majority of my backlist books. I feel pretty comfortable and confident in now being able to more heavily focus on newer releases that catch my attention without feeling guilty about doing so. And so, of course, I made that 2025 anticipated releases video, and I want to read those anticipated releases. So that's just a fun added challenge that I've put in there. And even though, like I said, I am not a mood reader, I will sometimes allow my mood to dictate what I read at any given point, and using my mood to potentially swap out some books on my TBR to satisfy a prompt that maybe I pulled from the challenge cup or that I landed on my TBR game. As long as I'm satisfying the prompts, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the exact book that I talked about in my TBR video. So if it comes time to read a book and it comes around and I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to read this book anymore, I'm not interested in it, or I'm just not in the mood to read it at this time, I will allow myself to find something different to satisfy that prompt. And if it just comes to a point where everything is so crazy and chaotic and messy and I just cannot reasonably satisfy my TBR, it is what it is, and it's not that big of a deal. I can move those books onto a future TBR. They can follow me throughout the year, and everything is going to be fine. Nothing is going to crumble down if that has to happen. And in order to prevent myself from going into a slump, because I am somebody that cannot really read or focus on anything heavy when I have a lot going on, I will allow myself to take a break from my TBR and maybe just read some bingeable things. Maybe I'll pull out a Frida McFadden for a candy thriller, or maybe I'll pull out a contemporary romance that I know I'm not really going to think too heavily about. You know what I mean? I'm going to pull out a lot of palate cleansers to help keep my motivation up. Essentially, I'm just going to meet myself where I am in 2025 and I'm going to assess what I'm able to do at any given moment and allow myself to make decisions based on that. For the most part, I would say a lot of things are not going to change. I'm still going to be doing reading challenges. I'm just going to be doing less of them. I'm still going to be doing my TBR game and making my TBR videos. There's just going to be less included in those videos, if that makes sense. And of course, I'm still going to be focusing heavily on my Patreon and doing our Patreon book club book, as well as the Patreon picks. Like, that's not going anywhere. I'm still very excited about that, and I still plan on meeting that commitment. My Patreon and I are also doing author read-alongs, so we are going to vote on an author, and then we are going to read a few books by that author over a few months and then select a new one and so on. So that's going to be fun. We just selected Grady Hendrix, so we're going to be reading a few Grady Hendrix books in the coming months, and that's going to be great too. And of course, I'm still going to make it a priority to read the books that I haul that I haven't already read, but I'm not going to force myself to read those immediately. Like, maybe I put the audiobook on hold at my library, and when that hold comes in, that is when I read those books. So I'm not going to make myself automatically fit those new books onto my current TBR. I'm going to allow it to flow a little bit more naturally, and I think that's going to take some stress off me as well. Because whether or not I end up with another heavy caseload of students, I will also once again be starting my grad program, and that's just another level of stress. And it's just something that also affects my mental health, right? When I have all of this stuff required of me for a grad program and I still have to be a full-time employee, and I'm also a booktuber, I'm also a wife, I'm also a fur mom. There's a lot of roles that I fulfill and play. Being a grad student is a role that I want off my plate as soon as possible. I want to get it done. I want to say that I did it, and I want to move on with my life and potentially never be a student in higher ed ever again. And I think that's it, everyone. I think that's really all that I wanted to talk with you about today. So nothing too terribly mind-blowing or new, but my plans for my reading going forward in 2025, because I still want to be a goal-oriented reader. I still want to be a TBR-focused reader, but sometimes I'm just going to have to set that aside and meet myself where I am. So I'm working on all of this balance, and I think the plans that I'm altering are going to allow me to have that balance, if you know what I mean. If you've made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you so much. I hope you enjoy these chatty heart-to-hearts that I like to bring you. I know that it's not super entertaining or informative content, but I like having that connection with y'all. So if you have made it to the end of this video, please go ahead and leave me a heart emoji down below, a heart of any color. And as always, if you like this video or if you just like me, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I typically post 2 videos a week, one on Wednesdays, one on Sundays, and I would love to connect with you in any of those future videos. But if you would prefer to connect with me outside of YouTube, you can always find links to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Patreon linked down below, along with any books that I might talk about in a video. Until next time, y'all. Bye.